Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. We are in Parsha Reeh, in the book of Devarim. We're in Deuteronomy. We're in Parsha Reeh, where he says, see, I've set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life, right? And well, that's it. We're done for today. No, we're not. We're not done for today. Got some things that we're going to get into here, because it is important to understand that Yahweh is continually setting in front of us choices to make. Are we going to choose the path of life? Are we going to hear his voice? Are we going to choose paths of righteousness? We're going to walk in his ways? Or are we going to choose to walk apart from Yahweh and do our own thing? Ultimately, it comes down to this. He is living. He is alive. He says he's putting his word within you. As he puts his word in you, it's changing you. And you continue to hear his voice. You continue to walk with him, and he dwells within you. Now, in this parsha, we also see that there's emphasis on a place where he says that he will dwell. And we can say, well, wait a minute. We don't need the place, because we are a place for him to dwell, right? Understand this, guys. I like how Brad Scott always put this. You can't say that the Holy Spirit is symbolized by a dove if you don't know what a dove is. You have to have one to explain these things before you can start putting it in spiritual aspects, right? This is why we see throughout the Torah, Yahweh is teaching us and showing us things before we have a spiritual application, all right? So you are a place for Yahweh to dwell. You are a temple for him. And that was in the very beginning. He wanted to dwell within you, right? But we have to understand that there is also a place that he has designated as holy, a place that is set apart, and a place where we are to gather to. And we need a place set apart to him. Why? Because without it, then we are tempted to just observe our relationship with Yahweh as just me and Yahweh. Well, he lives in me, so I don't need anyone else. And that's dangerous, because Yahweh says we are part of a people. And so this is why he says, like on Shabbat is a moed. Shabbat is a holy convocation. Shabbat is a gathering. You cease from your creating and you gather together as a people of Yahweh, where that's what the moedim are set for. You come in and you gather into his presence. This is why 3 times a year they were to gather in Jerusalem. It's a reminder that it's not just you. You belong to a people. And if you don't understand that connection, if you don't be a part of that connection, you don't feel you have that connection. And it's just you. And Yahweh has called us of something greater than just you. He's called you to be part of a body. All right. So this is what we're looking at. How important is the place where Yahweh's name dwells? Of course, it's important. This is what we look at. The place where Yahweh chooses is what we're looking at here. Okay. The Hamakom, Asher, Yivkor, Yod He Vav He. Hamakom is the place, okay? Asher is that, and the Yivkor, that he chooses, and Yahweh chooses. Now, interesting here, guys, because it's not just a place, not just any place, not just wherever we decide, wherever he decides. It is a place where he chooses, okay? So it's interesting, because it's 20 times it's mentioned in chapters 12 to 26 in the book of Devarim, in the place that Yahweh chooses. So it's mentioned more than once. So what's the significance of it? What's the importance of it? There's a lot there, because it is a central gathering point. It is a place of relationship. It's a place where your expression of relationship with Yahweh is brought together. And it's a place where you came to worship him. Now you could say, yeah, but can't we worship Yahweh anywhere? Yes, you can. But there is a place that he says is holy and set apart. And this is where Israel was to gather in to bring their offerings. Remember when they brought their offerings and they put it on the altar, right? This was worship. This was obedience. This was following with what Yahweh had said. And they couldn't do that just anywhere. Okay? They had to come and do that. And how the place over 20 times, just a few examples here. In 12:5, in 12:5, 12:11, 12:14, 12:18, 21, 26, all these, it's a place of bringing korbanot, your things that would draw near, your sacrifices. And we see it as a place to eat the Ma'aser Sheni, to eat the second tithe. This is what was set aside to come in and worship him, where you made the journey, you brought up all these things that you produced from the year, and you brought it there to the temple to do this. There's a place to eat the Bechor Bechema, the first of the flocks, the first of the herds, the first of these. This is the site of the Shalosh Regalim, the 3 foot festivals that you come up, and it's a site where the Supreme Court was, and it's the site where the Levi'im served, and this is a site where someone was to bring their first fruits. So all this was done at this place and could not be done anywhere else. And that was a big part of life for Israel. So a big part of their worship and a big part of their service. The temple was not just a place where they would come and have an altar and they'd throw some animals up there and have a barbecue. Okay. The temple was central theme for Israel, and life in Israel revolved around the temple. And every aspect of the temple involved and touched in some way, shape, or form, every Israelite's life. I mean, they had to have the flocks, they had to have the animals, they had to have the birds that were used, they had to have the grain, they had to have the oil, they had to have the wine, they had to have the means to transport all this, they had to have the water, they had to have the clothes, they had to have every aspect of life was touched by the temple. This is a place where Yahweh said his name. In other words, when we're all coming together to worship and serve him, we all get something we need out of it too. See that? But if we're just off by ourselves, then we might miss this connection. But when we all come together, we can do more together than we can do just by ourselves. It's hard to live life on your own, and it's hard to help people on your own. But if we can come together as a kingdom, come together as a people of Yahweh, there's a lot more that can be accomplished. Okay, but in order to do that, we have to see the importance of gathering together, to coming together to the place. Look at Zechariah 8 verses 2 through 5. Thus says Adonai Tzevaot, I am exceedingly zealous for Zion. I am burning with jealousy for her. Thus says Adonai, I will return to Zion and dwell in the midst of Yerushalayim. Then Yerushalayim will be called the city of truth, and the mountain of Adonai Tzevaot will be called the holy mountain. Thus says Adonai Tzevaot, once again, old men and old women will sit in the streets of Yerushalayim, each with his staff in his hand because of his age, and the streets of the city will be full of boys and girls playing in the streets. See that? What a wonderful picture, right? Just a joyous occasion. And Yahweh says this is all in Jerusalem, the place where he puts his name to dwell. Isaiah 2 verses 2 and 3 says, it will come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Adonai's house will stand firm as head of the mountains and will be exalted above the hills. So all nations will flow to it. And many people will go and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Adonai, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us his ways. We will walk in his paths. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Adonai from Yerushalayim. So he says you are to go and to seek where I put my name there. This is not just a matter of, not just some kind of passive, oh, it's over there, or, oh, he already said it's Jerusalem. No, this was to seek, to search it out. Again, this issue of relationship is being built day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, cycle by cycle, moed to moed, Shabbat to Shabbat. All of this is being built constantly and consistently. So we are to seek him daily. Because if we're not seeking him, we're not going to remember to walk with him. If we're not seeking him and his ways, we're going to end up doing our own thing. If we don't take into consideration what Yahweh has said, then we're not going to be walking with him. It's not just something we automatically do. It's something we have to purpose within our hearts to do. Okay? So Deuteronomy 12:5 says, you are to seek the place Adonai your God chooses from all your tribes to put his name there. There you will come. The word there for seek is tidrashu. Okay? Tidrashu. The word darash is the root there. All right? And again, to seek him is intentional. 1 Chronicles 13, 2 and 3, David says to the entire assembly of Israel, if it seems good to you, and is from Adonai Eloheinu, let us spread the word to our kinsmen who remain in all the regions of Israel, along with the Kohanim and the Levites in their towns and their pasture lands. Come and join us to do what? Verse 3, let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we did not inquire of it in the days of Saul. So he says, ki lo, and then the word that's used there is darashnuhu. That word, darash, is a word that's used there. We did not seek it. We did not inquire of it. We did not seek it. We did not pursue after it. Okay? So the word darash, it means seeking, inquiring, investigating, searching, studying, expounding. We did not seek after the ark and where it should be and where it belonged, and Yahweh in his presence. We did not do that. And we need to. We need to return his presence, return the ark back to Jerusalem as Yahweh had determined. So we need to seek him. Jeremiah 29, 12 through 14 says, when you call on me and come and pray to me, I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And then I will be found by you, says Adonai. And I will return you from exile and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I have driven you, says Adonai. And I will bring you back to the place from which I removed you as captives into exile. So he says, we as his people, though we may be in exile, though we may have been far off from him, we are to seek him in the place that he shall choose. What happens if we do not seek him? Well, that's first off rebellion, because he says to seek him. But what's going to happen to those who do not seek him? Who want to do our own thing? I'm not looking for Yahweh. I'm not pursuing him. I'm not seeking to connect with him daily. I'm just going to do what I want. What happens there? Zephaniah 1 verses 4 through 6 says, I will stretch out my hand upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place, the names of the idolatrous priests along with the Kohanim, those bowing down on the roofs to the host of heavens, those bowing down, swearing to Adonai, and also swearing by Molech, those turning from following Adonai, not seeking Adonai, or consulting him. He's saying, mixing your own thing, mixing your idolatry with worship of Yahweh. Syncretism. You don't mix the worship of the pagans and worship of Yahweh together. You don't mix the worship of the world and worship of Yahweh together. You can't say, I serve Yahweh while you're bowing down to idols. Okay? You're not seeking him. You're trying to use him as I've heard, fire insurance, right? You're trying to just make sure you got all your bases covered. No, you serve Yahweh. You love him. That means you walk with him. That means you have a relationship with him. That means you talk to him. That means you seek out his heart and what he desires. Yeshua says, my sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. Again, this relationship that's being done here, okay? So when we seek him, that's what we're seeking. It's not just seeking the things that he does for us. We're seeking daily to connect in that place of relationship with him, all right? So let's keep going. Deuteronomy 12, 5 through 7. So rather you are to seek only the place Adonai your God chooses from all your tribes to put his name to dwell. There you will come. There you are to bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, the offering of your hand, your vow and free will offerings, the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. There you and your household will eat before Adonai your God and rejoice in every undertaking of your hand as Adonai your God has blessed you. So see that? There is where you were to bring the offerings that were to go on the altar, and like the peace offerings, the Olah offerings, all of these things were to be fulfilled there. And as you go through the rest of the Torah, you find to be eaten in a holy place. That's the confines of the Temple Mount, the whole area that's there in Jerusalem, and all this in his place, in his presence. In other words, not just wherever, but to do so in his presence. To come into his presence, to come into his courts, and to eat with your king. Wow, what an honor, right? And this is what he was telling. This is what he desired for us. So moving on to verse 11, Deuteronomy 12, 11, starting 11 through 14. So then the place Adonai your God chooses to make his name dwell there, you are to bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the offering of your hand, the offering of your finest vow offerings that you vow to Adonai. And you will rejoice before Adonai your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your slaves and maids, and the Levite in your towns, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. Be careful that you do not offer your burnt offerings in any place you see. Rather, do only in the place Adonai chooses in one of your tribes. There you are to offer your burnt offerings. There you are to do all that I'm commanding you. So it's not just, you could just set up your own altar in your backyard. You do not want to be confused or mistook as worshiping any other idol. You don't want to do the way the pagans do it. The way you worship Yahweh is in his presence. The way you came and made your offerings was in his presence. Okay? You didn't do that just wherever and whenever and however. You did it there. Again, we serve Yahweh. We love him. We walk with him. But again, there are things he says, this is my way. You don't do it your way, because that will lead us astray. All right? He says we follow him in all of our ways. Deuteronomy 16, 16, and 17 says 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before Adonai your God in the place he chooses, at the feast of Matzot, the feast of Shavuot, and the feast of Sukkot. No one should appear before Adonai empty-handed, the gift of each man's hand according to the blessing Adonai your God has given you. So the 3 times a year, all Israel, all the men were to come and to gather in together. And we know that every 7 years, all Israel gathered together, no matter who they were. All Israel were to gather together to hear the Torah during Sukkot, to do this. But here we're in the Shalosh Regalim, the 3-foot festivals, the 3-foot feasts, it says that all your males are to appear before Adonai and to bring an offering when they come, right? Understand this. It says all. So if they were capable of walking, they were commanded to come for the 3-foot festivals. In other words, they're 2 years old. They're to go with dad to go to the temple, and they're to have their own offering. You are teaching and instructing all, without fail, all of Israel to come into the presence of the king. And you're starting from the least to the greatest. You are all coming before him into a place of unity, because it has to start somewhere. You're all coming together at a place of unity and commitment to love Yahweh, to serve him, to you teach it to your kids, and to let that flow into your families and flow into your homes, your communities, your cities, all of that. It's to start with you. So what we learn here, when all are gathered in together, what happens? When all are gathered in together, what we just read here, the Torah will go forth from Zion. Much like when we all gather at Horeb, right? When all Israel was gathered together at Horeb, or at Sinai, if you would rather, when all are gathered together, we are to hear the word of Yahweh. The word is declared for everyone to hear it. And as the word is declared, we all learn the heart of Yahweh. As we all learn the heart of Yahweh, we are to find a place of unity together in that. It's not like I'm serving Yahweh my way. No, we are learning a place of unity together, that together we serve and worship the one true God. We are hearing, as we all gather together, we are to hear his word and his instruction going forth from his temple to receive by the people, that it gets in us and it changes us. Deuteronomy 31, 10 through 13 says, Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the time set for the year for canceling debts during the feast of Sukkot, when all Israel comes to appear before Adonai your God in the place he chooses, you are to read this Torah before them in their hearing. Was it just the men who gathered in there? No. It says, gather the people, the men, the women, the little ones, the outsider within your town gates, so that they may hear and may learn and fear Adonai your God, and take care to do all the words of this Torah. So their children who have not known will hear and learn to fear Adonai your God all the days you live on the land you're about to cross over and to possess. See that? So when you gather in together, it wasn't just the men who do this. He says to come in and bring you and your families come with you. All Israel come and to hear the word of Yahweh. Why? Because then we all know what it says, and we can all take it to heart, and we are all accountable to it. We are accountable to the word of Yahweh and accountable to one another. And if we read the word of Yahweh, if we hear his voice, if we are accountable to one another, it's not going to be so easy to be led astray. Because there's a lot of people out there who are saying a lot of spiritual things, It's not right. A lot of people out there who quote scripture. Doesn't mean that they're doing what's right. Okay, a lot of stuff is taken out of context too. We need to follow Yahweh. Doesn't matter what a person really says. What matters is what Yahweh says. And we do need each other, but we also need to discern what is being said, if it is Yahweh's heart or not. Right? We're given warnings regarding that as well. Deuteronomy 13, 1-5 tells us that exactly. He says, whatever I command you, you must take care to do it. You are not to add or take away from it. Suppose, here's an example which we see happens. Suppose a prophet or a dreamer of dreams rises up among you, gives you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder he spoke comes true while saying, let's follow other gods that you have not known, let's serve them. You must not listen to the words of that prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for Adonai your God is testing you to find out whether you love Adonai your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Adonai your God you will follow. Him you will fear. His mitzvot you will keep. To his voice you will listen. Him you will serve, and him you will cling. See, he says, though someone comes among you, they have signs, wonders, miracles, they do all these great things, but when they're instructing you, when they're teaching you, they're drawing you away from what Yahweh has already given you, you're serving other gods. You're serving another God that is not him. You're serving another way that is not him. And he says, if they're pulling you away from that, they're a false prophet. Okay? So even if you come in their midst and you get the goosebumps and you have an emotional experience, if what they are teaching and instructing you is not lining up with what Yahweh has already given you, run. Run. Look, emotional experiences are signs and wonders alone. They're powerful, they're spiritual, but they're not always right. What feels right to us is based on our state of being at the time. If we follow emotional experiences, it just leads us through a roller coaster of up, down, up, down, and up, down, but not discerning truth. And Proverbs 14:12 says there's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is death. Fact is, not all who prophesy or have a prophetic gift are listening to or speaking on behalf of Yahweh. Romans 11:29 says the gifts and calling of God are without repentance. 2 Chronicles 18:22 says, now therefore, behold, Yahweh has put a lying spirit in the mouth of the prophets, and Yahweh has spoken evil against you, speaking to the king at the time. Proverbs 28:9 says, if a person will not listen to the Torah, even his prayer is an abomination. Proverbs 29:18 says, without a prophetic vision, the people throw off all restraint, but he who keeps the Torah is happy. Isaiah 8:19 and 20 says, when the people say to you, seek to the mediums and the fortune tellers who peep and mutter, should not a people seek to its Elohim rather than for the living to seek to the dead, to the Torah and to the testimony? If they do not speak according to this word, it's because there's no light in them. See, Yeshua says that people are going to come up among you, false prophets, and he's allowing it to happen because he's going to see that you will know. Consider that. Whether you will know. Do you truly love Yahweh, or do you just love the idea of him? Do you just love him for the thought of what he can do for you? Do you just love him for the signs, wonders, and miracles? Do you just love him because of the feel good? Or do you love him because he is Yahweh? See, do you love him for the things, or do you love him for who he is? If we're loving him for the things, someone else can come along and give you things and just lead you astray. But do we love him? See, it's where it gets real. Do we love him and follow him, no matter what it looks like, no matter what life happens? Do we love him? Do we get the bright lights and the shiny things and just pull us off astray, or do we love him? Mark 13:22 says, false messiahs and false prophets will rise and show signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Matthew 7:15 says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. 2 Thessalonians 2:9 and 10. The coming of the lawless one is by activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refused to love the truth and be saved. 1 John 4:1 says, beloved, Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. Acts 20, verses 29 and 30. I know that after my departure, fierce wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. And from among your own selves will arise men speaking twisted things to draw away the disciples after them. Romans 16, 17 through 19 says this. I appeal to you, brothers, to watch out for those who cause divisions and create obstacles contrary to the doctrine you have been taught. Avoid them. For such persons do not serve our Lord Yeshua, but only their own appetites. And by smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the hearts of the naive. For your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you. But I want you to be wise as to what is good and innocent as to what is evil. So what we learn here is this. A holy people should not be divided into factions. We need to learn to work together. And so we have people coming in and doing signs, wonders, miracles, all these things, but they're trying to draw you away from what Yahweh has already given you, try to draw you away from his word and his promises, his life, his people. Who are they really serving? Scripture tells us not to cut ourselves off from his people. He tells us you are a holy people. You're separate from the world. You're not separate from his people. Okay? Like it or not. Disagree or not. Differences of opinion or not. You're not separate from his people. We have to learn to work together to be in unity for Yahweh. Common purpose to show the heart of Yahweh. Period. We don't have to agree on every point. Matter of fact, I seriously doubt we ever will. But that's not the main point. The main point is we love Yahweh and we serve him, right? We are not to cut ourselves off and break divisions and factions in the body. We're a body. We need to be together and function as a body, as one that does so properly. Look in Deuteronomy 14, 1 and 2. It says, you are the children of Yahweh your God. You shall not cut yourselves nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For you are a holy people unto Yahweh your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be a peculiar people unto himself above all nations that are upon the earth. It's interesting where it says you shall not cut yourselves. Here's a different way of looking at it. In the Hebrew, it reads lo tit godedu. So the Hebrew, interesting for a military attachment, is godod. You see, there's a relationship there. It says you shall not cut yourselves. It's no tit goded. I'll get it now. I sorry guys, I just looked away from my notes. I couldn't see it. So it's lo tit godedu. So in Tractate Yevamot, we read, do not make any cuts upon your bodies, is interpreted as applicable also to the body of the nation as a whole. If you're part of a body, you're part of a body as a nation as well. We are to remain united and not permit differences in the teaching and interpretation of the law to cut us apart into dissenting communities. Is that what it means? Oh, I mean, it's one way to look at it. If it's applicable in the physical, it could be applicable in the spiritual as well, right? You're not to cut yourself off. You are to be a part of a people. Ephesians 4, 1 through 3 says this. Therefore, I, the prisoner united with the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called. Always be humble, gentle, and patient, bearing with one another in love, and making every effort to preserve the unity the Spirit gives through the binding power of shalom. We're part of a people, part of a body. We need to learn to walk together as such. And when we do so, it'll be glorious. It'll be a picture to the world that Yahweh is our God, and there is a way to overcome the things of this world, and it's only found in him. When we learn to put our own selves down and the way that we think about things and things that we want to fight over, let's just seek the heart of the Father. Let's seek him and learn to walk his ways. Go to the place where he has put his name, even if that is the only place you got right now is within your heart, then seek him. Write his word on your heart. Let him dwell within you, and that will change you. That will cause you to be more like him. That will cause you to understand there is a connection greater than just you. There is a connection as a body at large, a kingdom of people, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation that includes you. Let's learn to walk together as a body of people set apart to Yahweh. Okay? So, I pray that this has been an encouragement to you guys. I pray this has also been a challenge to you, because that's how we change, right? If it has, if this has been a blessing to you, please consider making a donation to help us keep these things moving out there, to help us keep continuing to make these videos and putting them out there. And in whatever avenue you watch or listen, please share them. Please share them to help get the word out there as well, okay? So until next time, I pray that you're blessed. I pray that you be a blessing, and shalom.